There are many decisions that have to be made during the course of a PvP match. From weapon and subclass selections to constantly evaluating both yourself and your opponents, there's a part of your game that sometimes gets under-prioritized. Arguably, the most important part of playing PvP is how you start your fights. In this video, I'm breaking down the 4 steps of engagement you need to follow in order to succeed in PvP. The great thing about these 4 steps is that each of them are very easy to practice. The hard part is actually applying all 4 of them at one time during the course of a fast-paced PvP match. My advice is to start by practicing each of these one at a time until you feel like you've got a good grasp on it. Then start applying them one by one until you can fully utilize them whenever you need to. Let's start with step number 1, which is to start your engagements with irregular movements. First, we need to classify what regular and irregular movements are in Destiny 2. Regular movements are any type of movement that can be easily predicted by your opponent. Examples of this are walking, sprinting, and strafing. But wait, those are like all the basic movements within the game. Yep, you're right. Which is why they are very easy to predict, especially when there is no variation to them. Irregular movements are any type of movement that cannot be predicted by your opponents, usually coupled with the effect of forcing your opponent to make a change in their routine. There are 3 common examples of how you should use irregular movements to start your engagements: sliding, crouching, and single jumping. Sliding is usually the one people gravitate towards the most. Anytime you are moving around the map in locations where there's usually a lot of traffic, sliding is a really effective way to change the visual level of your character. Most of the time, people are trying to place their crosshairs at head level whenever they are moving their way around the map, and rightfully so. When you enter a lane by sliding, you are not only forcing your opponent to change where they aim, but you're actually playing into the natural latency that Destiny PvP has. Even though it may only be fractions of a second, you're still giving yourself that slight edge upon first engagement. Crouching is usually something that is thrown in during combat. So while you're in a gunfight with someone, throw in the occasional crouch instead of strafing in one direction. Strafing can be an effective tool in gunfights, but what a lot of people struggle with is the change in direction. Most of the time, people get so tunnel vision during a gunfight that they just keep strafing in one direction. Crouching is a much more intentional way of forcing your opponent to make adjustments on the fly, and it also adds to that layer of unpredictability. Lastly, single jumping from out of cover. This is probably my least favorite of the 3, but if you're able to master it, there aren't many people that can counter it. Single jumping is referring to the initial hop whenever you perform a double jump on any character. It's often associated with pressing whatever your jump button is one time. This is simply just another way to change visual levels of your character to make yourself less predictable. Though you do need to be careful when doing this, as your weapons may suffer from the in-air accuracy on occasion. So in other words, this tactic works really well with single fire weapons like hand cannons and shotguns. Side note, if you're with a well-coordinated team in something like Trials or competitive, there is a strategy that almost guarantees a kill for your team every single time. Whenever you decide to challenge a lane that you know an opponent is going to be looking down, have one teammate slide out from cover and the other teammate single jump from out of cover. By doing this, you're forcing your opponent to choose between doing damage to either one person or the other. And by the time they even choose who to shoot at, they're usually dead. Super effective when executed correctly. Let's jump to step number 2, which is check your peripherals before and during a fight. There are 3 types of peripherals you should be looking for: your radar, opponents approaching from other lanes, and potential cover. First and foremost, you should always check your radar before you start an engagement. The radar is the strongest part of your loadout, so make sure you utilize it as much as you can, though not so much that you're totally reliant on it. While you're looking at your radar, you should be checking for sound cues like supers, jumps, shots, etc. All of this is information for you to take in so that you can anticipate what may happen next. After your radar check and your audio cues, you need to be thinking about where other opponents might potentially start shooting you from. This is especially true for 6v6 game modes where there is a higher chance of you being shot from multiple angles. Now, I want to be very clear on this step because the purpose of it is not to completely shift your focus from one opponent to another if you catch them entering a different lane. The purpose is to keep them in your peripherals while maintaining focus on the fight you're currently in. Otherwise, you're just constantly shifting your focus, and that can ultimately hurt your efficiency in PvP. Stay focused on the fights in front of you while maintaining awareness of your surroundings so that you can react at a moment's notice. The last check you need to make of your peripherals is your potential spots of cover. Players who tend to be more intentional with their positioning on a map will almost always have cover in front of them, while also potentially having a second spot for cover that they can alternate between. Cover can be something as big as a wall or as little as a metal post. And the great thing about cover is that it doesn't even have to completely shield your character. The best players in the game can utilize the most obscure pieces of cover imaginable. As long as you can manage moving in and out of cover effectively, and as long as the cover is able to shield you from some bullets, don't be afraid to use it. This leads perfectly into the third step, which is utilizing that cover. There are two ways in which the best PvP players will utilize cover. They will either use it as a way to regenerate their health, or they will use it as a way to re-engage the fight from a different angle. I don't feel like I need to explain any further why it's important to utilize cover as a means of regenerating health. If you don't have health, you die. But what I will reiterate is the importance of being aware of your health during a fight. I've said this a bunch in my other PvP improvement videos, but I can't tell you how many times people from our Discord server would claim that weapons are either one-shotting them or that they're overpowered. When in reality, I'm looking at clips they've recorded and they're either peeking out from cover at less than half health, or they're just completely starting gunfights while their health is still in the red. If you want to take your game knowledge to the next level, start paying attention to what your health bar is at when you start your engagements. And please, don't re-challenge the same angle if your health is low. You're basically just telling the game that you would like to respawn. The other way top players utilize cover is by using it as a way to reset their aim, while also using it as a different angle to challenge their opponent. The more times you are able to limit the exposure your character has, the harder it gets for your enemies to put damage on you. Using cover as a way to challenge from a different angle is yet another way for you to take advantage of the natural latency of Destiny PvP. If someone's got the beat on you during a 1v1, find the closest cover spot, gain any health back that you need, and re-challenge it from a different angle. This is the simplest way to increase your efficiency in PvP. At this point in the 4-step process, you need to evaluate if you need to move on to the final step, which is to disengage and reset. You'd be surprised how many players simply refuse, either consciously or not, to disengage from a fight because they are too fixated on getting a kill. The number of kills you get in a PvP game is irrelevant if you don't value staying alive. It's much less the case in 6v6 modes, but in 3v3 modes like Trials and Comp, you being alive is much more valuable to your team than you trying to secure a kill. If you notice that you're in a gunfight and there's suddenly multiple radar indications that there are people around you, your first reaction shouldn't be to shoot. Your first reaction should be to GTFO. Again, you being alive plays a bigger role in your PvP success than getting a kill does. Don't be afraid to disengage, hit the reset button, and find a new way to take on those fights. The most important aspect of these 4 steps is that they allow you to dictate how your engagements are started, rather than letting your opponents do that for you. You're limiting the factors that you can't control, and you're switching them out for things that you can control. The more times you are in control, the better you're going to play. The hardest part in all of this is the execution. I can sit here and spew all of this at you, and you can either agree or disagree to do some of these things, but it ultimately comes down to, do you want to put the time and effort into it? And I would assume if you're still watching this video, then yes, you do want to. If you want more advice for your PvP journey, click on one of the videos showing up on your screen right now.